The Ukrainian port city of Mariupol comes under heavy attack as Russian advances continue. Rallies in support of Ukraine are held in major cities across the West.
US and Bulgaria meet to discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but Bulgaria says it won't send military aid.
China records its first 2 COVID-related deaths since January of last year. Scenes of devastation in the Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Moscow says it has now broken the defences of the strategic port. Information all but confirmed by the Ukrainian government, which says it has no military solution for the city, where 1,300 people are still reported missing from Wednesday's bombing of a theatre that was being used as an air raid shelter. The mayor of Kyiv, Vitaly Klitschko, has been inspecting trenches around the capital. The Ukrainian government says it's expecting to receive a new shipment of US weapons within days, including Javelin and Stinger missiles. Meanwhile, Ukrainian government pictures from Zaporizhia in the southeast of the country show evacuation taking place on one of 10 agreed humanitarian corridors. Thousands of people have gathered in Bern's Bundesplatz to oppose Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine's ambassador to Switzerland and the president of the Swiss Confederation addressed the crowd, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky joined the demonstration via video link-up, using the occasion to criticize Nestlé for continuing to invest in Russia.
Would you like to say something?
Russia, stop war! Stop! Russia, stop war!
Tens of thousands of people have also rallied in Finland, including this demonstration in the capital Helsinki. Finland is to set up reception centres across the country to welcome refugees from Ukraine. Ukrainian nationals made up the bulk of the crowd at an anti-war protest in Paris. Many called for a total boycott of Russian gas. In New York, a Mother's March in support of Ukraine was organised. New York City is home to more than 150,000 Ukrainians.
US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in Bulgaria for talks with Prime Minister Kirill Petkov and Defense Minister Dragomir Zakov. They'll discuss defense cooperation and NATO's plans to boost its eastern flank amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but Bulgaria rules out military aid. Bulgaria will continue to do everything possible to aid the Ukrainians in this hard war and this huge aggression that the Russian Federation has been inflicting on them, Mr. Petkov told reporters. But being so close to the conflict right now, sending military aid for Ukraine won't be possible for us.
And we also talked about the things that our forces are doing together. And certainly we remain grateful for his leadership and to Bulgaria for hosting a battle group here.
Meanwhile, protesters rallied in a park near Bulgaria's defense ministry while talks between the two leaders were taking place. Surrounded by police, they chanted, held banners and waved Bulgarian and Russian flags.
South, a sleepy agricultural hub in the northwest of France, is some 2,000 kilometres from the war in Ukraine. The region is currently battling an outbreak of bird flu, but residents are also feeling the pinch. Local farmers are facing a sharp increase in energy and cereal prices as relations between Russia and the European Union go from bad to worse.
Aujourd'hui, l'impact pour nos exploitations
This pig and chicken farmer says there is a direct impact in our farms. The price that we sell our chicken hasn't really changed, while we have a 50% increase in the cost of our animals because of the increase of grain and raw material prices. So this situation is unbearable. The bloc approved a fresh raft of sanctions earlier this week. But as prices continue to rise, dairy farmer Philippe wonders what will happen in the short and medium term. He says, I hope that the EU and the government will protect the farming sector because we have the means to produce our food locally and feed our citizens. France has long encouraged Europe to become more independent in its agricultural production. While France produces most of its own wheat, corn and rapeseed, the country is still heavily dependent on Russian fertiliser.
Local people in Toulouse, along with politicians, military personnel and representatives of the Jewish community, have been marking the 10th anniversary of a series of terrorist attacks in which 7 people were killed by Islamist gunman Mohammed Merah. The commemoration comes ahead of events on Sunday, which will bring together 2,000 guests, including French President Emmanuel Macron and Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Former heads of state François Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy and members of the Muslim faith will also attend. On the 19th of March 2012, 3 Jewish school children and their teacher were among those shot at a Jewish school in Toulouse. The children were aged between just 8 and 3 years old. After a manhunt, Merah was shot dead by police on March the 22nd, following a 30-hour siege at his Toulouse apartment. 4 days before the Toulouse attacks, Merah, who was Algerian-French, had shot 2 off-duty uniformed French soldiers and seriously wounded another in Montauban. Before he was tracked down and killed, he'd filmed all of his attacks on a body-worn camera and made a video which he distributed to TV news channels.
China has recorded its first 2 COVID-related deaths since January of last year. But health authorities say the elderly victims died from underlying conditions and not the disease itself. The deaths in the northeastern Jilin province come as China suffers a surge in cases, having for a long time avoided the levels of infection recorded in other parts of the world. Both victims had serious underlying diseases, a spokesperson for the Chinese health authorities said, and one of them had not been vaccinated against the coronavirus. Their coronavirus condition was mild. The direct cause of death is underlying diseases. More than 29,000 cases have been recorded across China this month. The current round of the epidemic has affected multiple locations and is widespread, the spokesperson said. The main strain is Omicron, and the number of cases in some provinces is increasing rapidly. China has so far adopted a zero-COVID policy to contain the spread of the disease, but is now seeking to move away from stringent lockdowns.
Brazil's Supreme Court has blocked popular messaging app Telegram in a bid to battle the spread of disinformation ahead of this year's presidential election. The move follows Telegram's failure to comply with previous rulings and remove accounts disseminating fake news. Telegram is widely used by President Bolsonaro and his supporters. Justice Alexandre de Moraes says Telecom's regulator Anatel has 24 hours to implement the suspension.
At least 1,000 people are thought to have taken part in a demonstration in Paris on Saturday against racism and police violence. Protesters marched behind banners, including one saying "Stop State Crimes." Among those taking part were relatives of victims of police violence. The annual procession was blocked for a while as demonstrators protested against the heavy police presence. 5 historic cemeteries have been discovered in the Saqqara region of western Cairo that are the burial places of leading figures from more than 4,500 years ago. Saqqara is part of the Memphis cemetery named after the god Seker from the Old Kingdom. Some tombs are for major statesmen, but one is for the wife of a man named Yat and another for a woman called Betty. There have been many archaeological discoveries in Saqqara over the past year, including hundreds of coloured tombs with well-preserved mummies of senior figures from the 26th dynasty.